welcome back to ISOS in search of success. The goal of this podcast is to enable you and empower you with the tools and techniques and strategies and tactics and the formulas and the frameworks that you need to bring your ideas into life and turn your dreams into reality. And in this episode, episode number 3, we are continuing our discussion with Vachana Jayaram, who is free flowing and sharing all her experience and insights and wisdom about leadership. So stay tuned. I'll see you at the end of this episode.
This essentially should become a culture of an organization. I don't know if
it makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. Only thing I think I'll ask a couple of questions around the culture. Like in your experience, right? If you look at the Fortune 500 companies, as I said, study leadership in a corporate setup. If you go to Fortune 500 companies and successful companies, the so-called successful and profitable companies, you will see that employee welfare is given a primary focus, right? Then the customer comes, right? And there is literature also now available. If you remember Vinit Nair saying in his book, employee first, customer second, right? From HCL, right? So there are a lot of leaders who believe that. But if you go to the ground and look at the small and medium scale companies and startups, do you think this is reality or this is just something that they have heard of? They know, but there is no connection to reality in these companies.
I wouldn't say it's completely disconnected, but I think at the end of it, budget plays a big role when you have to bring in these kind of benefits for employees. But I have my 2 cents to all of that is you cannot. I mean, like I was saying, airlifting an employee is not what I'm expecting out of a small scale company to do, right? That's it's beyond our budget very clearly, beyond our reach. That company did it because it did have that kind of money and connect and whatever that was needed. But in small ways, I'm sure, like keeping a office clean, having a clean restroom, those don't take too much effort.
You are seeing these things not being present.
Yeah, not being present. Where all of us know for a fact that we spend minimum of 9 hours in office, so that means there's so much restroom breaks. Imagine going to a restroom that looks like a public washroom, and it's it's not about. Of course, it's a health hazard, and it's not like as bad as I think I could be exaggerating. I'm a little OCD with these things, but it's like how you feel, right? When you enter your house, you should feel welcome. You should feel things are very organized and in its way, and you're not being questioned for a cup of coffee. Coffee break cannot be questioned. Like, why have you taken 12 minutes for a coffee break? It's 10-minute break. I have seen this.
Micromanagement, basically micromanagement.
Correct. Yeah. And changing the size of coffee mugs because too much of milk is being consumed. It has gotten that petty to, I knew the reasons behind it as well. We were not doing so great. But then go tell the employees about it so that they can probably that's the difference that I'm saying. So if you're not able to afford that, be very open about it and say, hey, we are literally struggling right now. This is not a great time. I'm sure employees will bring their own cup of coffee,
Right.
They do that. They wouldn't be expecting freebies like that. And even if you're bringing, the healthcare coverage, if you're not able to give to everyone to begin with, when you're starting, it's mostly employees covered. Family then kind of got introduced much later in smaller setup. Talk about it and say we are looking into it, and when we reached a certain number, this is something that we'll introduce, and stick to it when it happens. And I've seen employees are very, very appreciative of the fact that it was explained to them and they understand, and then it's their decision. It's to still continue with an organization which is like that.
Right. So another thing I wanted to understand in terms of building a culture is you mentioned about appreciating employees, right? My question is around celebrating failure, because if in today's time you are a technology company or an IT company, so to say, then you cannot sustain without innovation. And the moment you talk about a culture of innovation, there has to be a list of things, one of which is to celebrate failure, right? So from your perspective as a head of HR, what do you think takes to build a culture where failure is celebrated? And what is the role of the frontline managers in that? And what is the role of leadership in that? When you are building this culture and the focus is in building a culture of innovation, there has to be a lot of experimentation, a lot of failures. Failures, for me, they're learnings, what not to do going forward, right? But while building this culture, what do you think happens? What should the role of frontline managers and leadership should be in creating a culture where innovation is there, it's given priority, but failures are celebrated? Because without failures, I don't think you can create a culture of innovation. So what's your take on that?
I don't know what you mean by failures should be celebrated, as in if there is anything particularly to be done. But my take on that is there shouldn't be a fear of failure. That if I don't do this, I will be reprimanded. I will lose my job. That fear shouldn't be there. That has to be.
How do you take that fear away from employees? Let's discuss that.
Okay. So that's about letting people fail and clearly, I'm not, and then talk about it and say, okay, these are things that, you should not be doing, right? A failure, like let's say, for example, starting a simple thing, somebody's crashed the server because of some, goof up that they have done in the coding. Yes, it's a big deal. Yes, it's cost money. I think what would help that employee not repeat that mistake and still continue to work, give his 100%, is to explain to him what he did, how it has impacted, and what is the business impact it's had. Explain, give him the dollar value, tell him this is what has happened, but not keep him in fear that one more time this happens, you're out. Right? Come on, how can that person with that kind of pressure and stress not make mistakes? Because mistakes will happen. Now, nobody does mistakes on purpose. They're all adults working in an organization. They have also come to build a career. They have a family to take care of. How many such cases, would have happened in the entire history of our own organization, where somebody's on purpose come and decided, yes, I will ruin everything today, right? It doesn't happen that way. So I think it's to give them that assurance that it's okay. It's okay. It happened. Of course, try not to repeat it. But do you need any help? Like, do you have everything that you need to, obviously get into the root cause of it, right? Not trying to kind of interrogate or anything. There are many better ways to do what it is. It could be lack of knowledge. It could be maybe lack of training. It could be the lack of checks at the next level, that is, these things have happened. So put those things in place and see that it doesn't repeat. Rather than reprimanding. I think that's how the fear is taken off. Because see, like you rightly said, what happens is, assume we're talking about an IT company, a big projects, one big celebrations everybody knows, and big announcement of this is the person who is going to run that project. Next thing we know is in 6 months down the line, the project doesn't kick off, and then the leader is mysteriously, he's resigned and gone, moved to another company. Come on, nobody is that naive to not see. For all you know, it could be a genuine case where he's decided to move out, but people see, right? Like the team members will see, like, okay, project out means manager himself is out, and that means there is no room for error in this organization.
Right.
This I have seen, by the way, very, very in small organizations. It's very, very rampant. People have started crying for making the smallest of mistakes, and literally a breakdown and all of that. And I'm like, had to calm down, talk to the person. Is when I understood that the manager used to keep telling, apparently, that one mistake and you're out. I have complete authority here. One mistake and you're out. These are freshers who barely know anything. So they come in every day like, oh, okay, praying that they don't make any mistakes and they're not kicked out because they have a family to take care of. But when I took it to the next management, and I was too junior then, they did change that as a culture, because even that manager was scared. I mean, it's not like he was just he was like, no, would you not fire me if I did something? Like, no, I mean, we don't hire you only to fire you. It's okay. Things happen, right? So that comfort is definitely needed, that I have some room for error. I have somebody to fall back on. Yeah, that's, I'd say, how you can build that culture.
Awesome. Makes a lot of sense. Now, you mentioned about growing the next set of leaders. So when I am a CXO, for example, and I'm looking at the next level and I'm trying to pick up the right leaders, right? Apart from integrity, apart from, let's say, continuous learning, apart from authenticity and openness, anything else that you will be looking for? What should I be looking for when I'm hunting for, or, scouting for the next level leaders? What should I look for in the corporate setup?
Interesting. What would I look for if, what should you look for? I'd suggest, don't try to replicate your leadership, style. If somebody's just exactly like, Deepak worked fine as a CXO. I am the CXO, you're the CXO right now. And you're trying to look at a successor.
That's precisely the question. Should I look for someone who says yes to me all the time? Should I look for people who are fighting with me all the time and challenging my methods, my approach all the time? What kind of people should I look for? That's the precise question. You're going in the right direction, basically.
Okay. So I think it's not so much about direct about, should it be a contrast? For me, like, assume you have a bunch of CXOs, who have to be your successor. Whoever believes, at the end of it, we're talking about a leader and the vision and who's aligned to it, right? Who is a person who's most aligned, ideally, should be. And then if it were me, that's how I would have picked my next level.
Okay.
Now, if that person lacks a certain skill, like, because if not, that person may not have everything that is required to be the CXO, just hire the right team for him. I'm sure, empower the other people to kind of, support this leader that way. But for me, someone who, if the intent of you as a CEO right now is to, I'd like to rephrase the thing. It depends on what stage you are in, and maybe your choices would change then. Because if yours is a very well-established organization, you're looking to sustain it, maybe what I said right now, that kind of person will work, because it's just about, continuing with what is there. But now you're looking for a complete, makeshift, and you want it to be like a Deepak 2.0, then it'll have to be somebody who comes in with very fresh ideas, who's questioning your thoughts, and who comes in new ways. But it's my advice of having a good advisory, team for that particular person still remains.
Okay.
It cannot be very far from what the organization originally, had envisioned to become.
Okay. Makes a lot of sense. Now, do we have any rules around leadership from your experience? Are there any rules in corporate leadership? Like, a leader should never do this, right? or a leader must always do this, never should do this. Do you think there are some rules, that unsaid rules, of course, that we follow, especially in Indian subcontinent? Or how has been your experience in this rules of leadership? Are there any?
No, I don't think there are rules, but there is a certain perception, I'm sure, of a leader that, all of us have kind of developed. Like, a leader should have that aura. I think that's something they have to work on.
Aura or charisma, what do you call it?
Yeah, charisma. Yeah, I think that'll help. Like, you had one of your questions was, are leaders born or leaders made?
Right.
But that's something, an aura, I think, comes naturally. It's a very inborn thing. It can be developed, I'm sure. Maybe they'll have to, I don't know. This is a debatable thing. I'll have to figure out. But I don't think there are rules that this is how a leader must be.
Okay, if not rules, can we call them myths? Like, for example, if I'm becoming a CXO, am I thinking that I should always have all the answers? Is this something that goes into people's mind when they take up leadership roles or move into CXO roles or things like that? Because I know that happens. When they do not have the right answer or they cannot support their team with the right answer, they somehow feel an imposter syndrome, you can call it. They feel that they're not worthy enough, right? So they have their problems with dealing with that. But yes, they set these self-expectations somehow, I don't know how, but yes, a leader should have all the answers. A leader should never be vulnerable, right? Talking about, as we discussed in the beginning, talking that I don't know the answer, talking that I'm scared, I don't know how this is going to unfold, this is going to take power from the leader. These are unsaid things. And I think, yeah, they're not rules, they're like myths, but people behave according to these things. So those are the things that I'm trying to dig out, maybe a list of 4 or 5. I mentioned 2. Anything else you want to contribute? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Which I'm saying. So if there were certain such guidelines, then I would have so many more names to say, right? Like every CEO then should have come. Like, I mean, come on, I've been in the industry for 18 years. How many CEOs even I have, known that these are the leaders and these are the guys that I should emulate? I don't think so. So it's very, very different. They should just remember that they are people as well. They are also employees. Yeah, they're human. I know they are the largest stakeholder in all of it. But I think that's one common rule. Maybe like try and be genuine in whatever you're trying to do. That should take them a long way. Everything else is just a lot of farce. Like even the aura that I was talking about. Not many, if I have to take Narayan Murthy, it's not like he walks into a room and then you will be like, wow, like that. But Sudha Murthy has that, she carries that aura. So she's a leader of a different kind. So I take that answer back that I think aura is needed. Maybe that's my ideal leader.
Leader, right? So coming to a very controversial topic, as they say, but I don't see it as controversial. It's kind of the way things are. Being a woman leader in the corporate world, do you think the journey of a woman in the corporates to leadership or to the corner office, do you think it's challenging? Do you think it's very different from what a man has to go through? How has been your experience around
that? Okay. So I have a contradictory and controversial answer as well for this.
As long as it's real answer and experiential answer, we don't care. Let it be controversial.
You can then choose to post how you like it. A woman's journey, at least in up to when I was working full time, that is like up to recently now, is very difficult. I'd say it's not easy. It's not as straightforward as it is for men. It's very difficult to explain because the minute you begin to explain, it'll seem like we are nitpicking and nagging about smaller things. But unfortunately, it is. It is the way it is. Also, it is very clearly a man's world out there in many places. It's changing, like drastically changing. It's still a long way to go. Like, for me, the irony is that we had to give a 70-30% thing, right? Where you needed 70%, 30% women had to be an ideal number of, the ratio of women to be higher. The minute something like that becomes like a best practice to follow itself, that not enough women are out there. Having said that, I think we women are also a lot to blame on how we are not making the most of the opportunities out there.
Mm-hmm.
We, I think, tend to second guess ourselves. We think that handling home and work is not easy. And, of course, it's not easy for biological reasons. We have to kind of take care of home. I mean, in terms of if you're having a baby or otherwise. But those are, definitely changing. But I think we're focusing on the battle is very, very different right now. I think we've become too feminist for no reason. We are focusing on this word cannot be used for me, and I know where we're saying it's become something else only. The fight, what they're fighting for, they have forgotten and it's become something else. But yeah, short answer to your long question. To your question is, like I was saying, the journey of woman leader is definitely not as straightforward as a man. And it's not comparable to every man as well. I'm sure men have their, set of challenges, because there are multiple things. People who've come from different, socioeconomic backgrounds to what kind of upbringing. There are multiple factors, I'm sure, which works towards this. I have worked with only three. Women leaders. One of them I can call her a leader. Two of them are managers. But that's why I said it's a controversial thing. But I did not enjoy working with them as a manager as well. Because every cliche thing that's been told about a woman, they would, they were kind of showing all of those signs, like they get, a lot of tantrum thrown, they were very dismissive and things like that. The point is, I'm sure a lot of male leaders as well that way. And the other thing is, I don't think women support women. That's another thing that I think if everybody works towards that, like, if in the larger scheme of things, when they're talking about feminism and all of whatever they're fighting for, first step is just, I think, support the women around you, rather than you also being judgmental about them. Making those typical statements, which, we get so annoyed with. How can that male manager say? We very casually say that about our own, women colleagues. So that's very hypocritical, I feel. Yeah, so it isn't easy for sure, that I have seen, and it has been with this one of the leaders that I've spoken about. I think she did her best. She was by far, like one of the, not the best, like one of the good leaders that I have worked with. But suddenly, I think that she also kind of lost the whole touch of being there, and she just couldn't or deal with the criticism that's coming her way, and things like that. And I was like, disappointed. I'm like, come on, I wanted you to see that you'll survive this. So that, yeah, something like that. So not too many out there.
So, basic question. If you look at the IT industry, because that's what the experience is around, it's a knowledge economy, right? So when it's about knowledge, do you think there is a disparity between the amount of knowledge or expertise that is brought onto the table by a male employee versus a female employee? Do you think there is a disparity? No, right? So when it's knowledge economies, the company is about creating apps, creating or development or testing and stuff like this, right? Where in the culture or work culture, this disparity starts coming in when it is about promoting women leaders or promoting leaders to the next level. Why a woman is left out? If it's not a knowledge economy, it's a manufacturing economy, I can still understand a few aspects of it. But when it's about knowledge, it's about ideas, it's about executing on a laptop and stuff like that. Where did this disparity start, and why is it still there? And we're talking about it, and we have to make special policies, to promote women leaders. Why? Where did we go wrong?
See, I feel, so let's assume we're talking about 70-30 is an ideal split, and now it's become, most companies are at 45-55 kind of thing, which is very good.
Right.
So when it reaches 50-50, maybe, we'll stop seeing this disparity. It's 3 women competing against 7 women, if 7 men, if that's how you're looking at it. So there are 10 candidates available to be promoted. So maybe in stack ranking, some of them genuinely, the women don't fall in the top one position for promotion. Maybe. But that's what. So the thing is now we've unfortunately come back to the thing that no, we have to have a woman leader. So we have to promote somebody who is not stack ranked higher because we need a woman on top, which is also fair because, to kind of bridge that gap, we have to do that. And yeah, it is going to pinch the men who actually were worthy for the position. But that's for the, to bridge the gap, some of these have to be taken, and maybe the best of them may not get promoted, due to that. For me, I think it's a simple thing. I mean, we should just stop looking at gender at all.
Exactly.
And now, yeah, we should just stop looking at gender, measure with Swan, and just go. Like I said, it's pros and cons, right? If you continue to do that, the disparity, the gap will, be much larger. So to bridge the gap, some of these are taken. Then there has to be something else. Maybe increase the number of promotions or something. Maybe that also doesn't exactly. So it's not. There is no solution to it. I think a couple of years there will be some pinch to the men who are still performing well, and there could be women who may be pushed. I wouldn't say they're incompetent. They're obviously in the, they're doing really well, but maybe may not have been as competent as the next other person who should have. Which is what I'm saying. So, bringing gender kind of kills the whole thing. We should just hire people for their skills. And now, with so many more genders in place,
right?
Even
so now we have looked at one side of the coin where gender should not be a parameter of choice when we're choosing the next generation of leaders, right? But let me look at the other side and bring gender into the question. When we talk about leadership, being emotionally intelligent or being emotionally aware about your own emotional state and how it is impacting your choices and decisions and your performance and productivity, creativity, all that stuff, right? As well as being aware of the emotional state of your team members, right? And what you can do for that. So this emotional intelligence and emotional awareness, it is kind of a given for a leader to be effective. I think this is something that they must have, right? But when it comes to emotional intelligence and you compare male with female leaders, I personally experience women are emotionally much more aware, and they're okay to talk about their emotions if you compare them with male. So if I'm hiring or kind of promoting a leader to the next level, and I'm kind of looking at all the parameters, including emotional intelligence, I am supposed to kind of take the woman, in this particular context. A woman is a better leader, right? Because they can connect more with the team members and kind of understand what is stopping them from performing at a higher level and take care or take steps to improve their productivity, performance, creativity, and stuff. What's your take on that? So am I wrong in assuming that emotional intelligence is not important for a leader, or am I wrong in assuming that women are much more intelligent emotionally than men?
No, you're not wrong in assuming that. I think women naturally are better that way, but is every woman, emotionally intelligent? Maybe not. Is every man emotionally unintelligent? Maybe not.
Not.
So
generalizing is not the right way of doing it. No generalizing.
Not necessarily have to be like a general rule. But like say, for example, you're looking at two people, a male and a female, and they are equally competent. Everything else checks. This thing maybe, I mean, of course, then it makes sense to evaluate that as well. And if you feel that the female leader brings in emotional intelligence, make that person the leader. But not everyone, which is why I said I have worked with women in the team and women above me, working with me. It's not such a generic characteristic to all. Similar to men as well. I mean, men also are extremely, I think the newer generation is much more emotionally intelligent. So, okay. Yeah, I think once we get to the 50-50 range, we should be. It'll take another couple of years and a lot of heartburn, like I said, to a lot of men who are losing out on that. But that's the price to pay for the gap to be bridged.
Last couple of questions. Important, but last. When you being in HR, right? You have seen people transitioning from a manager's role to a leader's role, right? And I have personally experienced, and there have been a lot of studies, case studies around the struggle that people feel when they get this promotion or the role change from being a manager to a leader, right? Do you think everybody does it right, or why there is a challenge, why people fail there? Managing stuff versus leading stuff. What is the challenge there? Why people fail so much? Or let me put it this way. Would you agree that we have a lack of leadership in the corporate world today?
Yeah.
So
because,
why?
like I said, it's the same, unfortunately, same strategy that's being used, right? So many years of experience. Every 2 years get promoted, good contributors, you become a senior manager, now some whatever next manager, and then you become a director. Director is essentially a leadership role.
Leadership role, yeah.
But is the person a leader just because he was managing well? Not necessarily. Very, very few people, have that skill of leading. They are excellent managers. That essentially means they're good at operations. They're good at organizing the work. They're getting work done. They're good. But will they be able to influence the entire team? I mean, managers also have to a certain extent influence the team and all that. And it's not like managers have no leadership skills whatsoever. But when you get to the next level, it's a different ball game.
Exactly.
To see. So, but I think a lot of coaching will help. I think I have always been a believer of somebody should be promoted to the next level once they have performed that role well.
Right.
Rather than, give the title and say, hey, now, perform, because then there's no rolling back. That doesn't make sense.
Right.
Where you get identified, then you get 6 months groomed, and then you kind of move into that. Seems very idealistic, but it did work to a large extent. At least you were able to flag off the ones that may not succeed. And of course, it needs a lot more, it's a lot more complex than, a thing like that. And it needed a lot more maturity of the system to then not promote them or, give them a different path, make them an individual contributor. Anyway, but that's an ideal way, rather than just giving the title and say, hey, now you're a director, behave like a director. They have no idea how to behave like a director. So there has to be a system, very well set up system, which naturally kind of moves you towards that way. And then if the title is given and you are expected to behave like a leader, then there better be excellent environment in place where you can emulate it naturally, where you see your colleagues become the leader, or you have a help system where they can get this required support that's needed. I think every CXO must have a coach. That's something, because it gets very lonely as they go up.
But not every CXO. That's this question kind of ties back to my previous question as well. When you're selecting your next generation of leaders, what do you look for, right? That's why not every manager can become a leader. And coming to coaching, that is kind of what I wanted to point out or ask next. When we talk about creating a culture of learning, or culture where learning is promoted, encouraged, and stuff like that, right? How do you build that culture? Because we talked about CXOs having coaches. I believe if you look at this particular stats, a lot of only 5% or 10% of the companies at the Fortune 500 companies, they have this policy that you must have a coach. But beyond that, there is a little bit of awareness, but execution-wise, I don't think it's happening. So how do you solve that? How do you create a culture of continuous learning where all the employees are encouraged, as well as the CXOs, they also behave or, kind of lead by example? Yes, I'm still learning at this role and this, so how do you create that? What's missing there?
This culture of like learning, mentoring and all of that, right? Like this buddy systems and thing. Very few companies it has actually kicked off, because it has to be, it's difficult to say why it works, but I know why it doesn't work. Because if like say assume I have to I'm a new joiner to your organization, and you've been assigned as my buddy or a mentor, right? I'm your mentee. There has to be something like, what's in it for Deepak to mentor Vachana, right?
Right.
That then has to kind of line up to your KPIs to say,
Right.
I have mentored these many people. And
Right.
it's not just data. I mean, they literally have to see that, okay, Vachana has been mentored, and from point A to point B, Deepak has been strong sponsor in bringing her there. I think that has to become part of our assessment system.
Right.
So once that is in place, naturally, initially it may become like, okay, in my assessment does it show up, and hence I mandatorily have to take 4 mentees. Then it becomes like part of the system, and you naturally become a good mentor, because somebody would have mentored you. You also then want to kind of emulate that. I think that's a culture, for top to bottom. It has not worked I've tried introducing that in a couple of organizations. It doesn't work for the same reasons. They don't see what's in it for me in that. I have my 9 hours of work, and you're expecting me to spend another hour with this person for what? Right? So to get that objective of why we are doing that and what they get out of it, obviously, they will look for something out of it. They're like, we never had somebody. Somewhere you need to start somewhere. We figured it out on our own. Why are you insisting? It's too much of but I think there has to be a good, like you said, there has to be probably a leader who's, has done that, and then it becomes like, okay, he has done that, so I will also do it kind of culture. Which is what I'm saying. So unfortunately, some of these things, fall flat because they use HR to drive it.
Right.
Then it becomes a policy. Then it becomes, So don't use us, like use the line managers, use the leaders. And that's been my cry in most of the organization. It is not HR's responsibility to make people learn and grow. It's each of theirs and each of yours as well. The minute you say it's like, HR is performance appraisal, people think HR drives that. Oh, you guys are busy. No, it's performance appraisal. Yeah. It's for us. So I think that's where the gap is. I think everybody should own up that, okay, this is our organization, my team, I need to build a team, I have to learn. And the other thing is, people complain about not getting progressed. They've been stagnated at the same thing. But they don't do anything to even understand what their next person, next level, person does. If I ask that simple, most of these happen one-on-one, of course. I'm like, do you know what your manager does? They don't know. They think half the people think their manager does nothing. They do everything.
Right. Okay.
And that's the first answer. I'm like, I don't think he does anything. He just gets up and goes, like, he takes some calls, and that's what I've seen. I'm like, ask your manager. I'm sure he'll be happy to explain. But as a manager as well, you should be equally open to share what I do. Instead of looking at it as a threat, so it's both. I have had these conversations multiple times, that unless you give away your set of work to the next level people and make yourself create a bandwidth, how will you grow to the next level?
Yes.
They just don't see that. Everybody is just so holding on to that position.
Okay, here is the last one. We started the discussion by saying that leader is a person with a vision, right? Then this is the person who has the ability to influence a group of people to align behind that. And this is also an executioner who knows how to take these people on a journey from where we are today to where we want to go, right? Now, this is a lot of change. There's a lot of change. And the blanket statements we hear about change is humans resist change. Blanket statement, humans resist change. Do you believe that's a correct statement?
Yeah. I mean, resist, they don't like the change.
They don't like change.
They don't like change. Nobody does, because sense of complacency is always nice and easy. Like, why?
Got it. So basically, they have a comfort zone. They have a sense of familiarity. And yeah, I understand. But I do not necessarily agree with the statement that people don't like change. People like change. People kind of adjust to change. They're eager to change. People get married. That's a huge change in your lifestyle. Get parents, become parents. And that's a lot of adjustment in going into that role. So we welcome change, people love surprises, which are basically changes, right? In small steps. So there is a psychology that kind of comes into play when we are talking about changes at workplace, right? If you take our personal life, yeah, we like change, we like surprises and stuff like that. But the moment it comes to workplace, change is something that people kind of don't like. You are right there. So as a leader, what do I do, or what should I do, if you can share something that makes me effective in terms of implementing change or leading a change inside my company that is beneficial for the business, maybe for the employees, maybe for the customers. I don't know. The change initiatives are, so many different things we do at organizations. So if I'm trying to do something, what would be your advice to me as an aspiring leader or a new leader, that if you are supposed to implement this change, approach it this way? So what's your take on that?
See, change management, actually, it's an entire topic for our discussion. It is, again, not simple and straightforward, but, one of the things that I have seen that has, if not made it, it's made it easy. Like, say, for example, implementing a system, like a new system, a change of system.
Right.
I think talking about why we are making that change, just being very clear, like, that's what it all comes down to: communication. This is why, because instead of people making their own assumptions, that I think this is for cost cutting, I think this is, to monitor us more, right? They'll only look at the negatives of it.
Absolutely. Change means removals will work unless until you have clearly communicated. There will be a lot of removals. You're true. Okay.
I think a lot of marketing, like, it has to be running as a campaign. A lot of marketing has to happen as to why we are bringing that change, and with this, how it is going to help them. But in the interim, there's going to be a little bit of friction, and how they should support us during that time. That thing as floor walks, and as talking to leaders, talking to HODs, talking to has made it easy. At least they've been a little open. They will be critical, and then also tell them that be as critical as possible, because some of them, if some of them we would know, like, when you, say, for example, if you're implementing a new HRMS system, earlier system, the new HRMS system is implemented for zillion other positive reasons. One of the annoying thing that it could come, because there's very little, most of them are pretty rigid and cannot be customized to how it is. Maybe you'll have to now log into your system to say that you're working. I mean, to, what do you say that? To mark your attendance, essentially, right? So it's an additional step. People can just crib about just that, focus on that, and not look at anything larger, right? So my point is, when I used to do those sessions, first thing is, I'm like, yes, this is one additional step, but these are the 10 other benefits. Rather than sweeping it under the rug and hopefully they won't find out about it, or
right.
Right. So I think whatever challenges, because when we also do the the assessment of the tool, we would have figured that out, that these are some of the challenges, these are some of the pain points. Talk about the pain points up front. I think that helps. At least it helps or not, it's out there. Then they're like, okay, it's already out there now. Then nothing can be done about it. Essentially explain to people what we are getting to, and also when we get there, announce those results progressively as well, that this is what's happening and this is what we're getting there. This is the progress towards what change we tried to make.
Okay, makes a lot of sense. So what you're saying is, first, I'm just kind of going tactically here. If you're trying to implement a change, first of all, with clarity, communicate why this is important. Second, how is it going to help you, right? Third, since every coin has two sides, there will be pros, there will be cons, and explain the pros and cons and kind of show them the weighted benefit, that this is on long term, this is how it is going to help us, right? And then probably during your communication, you also clarify whatever queries and doubts they might have before the implementation has happened. And these are the steps probably that helps do or lead the changes at workplace much easier. May not be, cakewalk, but yes, much easier as compared to when you don't do these things, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a lot. So thanks, Vachana. So thanks for sharing all your experience here, all your tactical and strategical advice. I think people who are watching this, they can take something back and start implementing at their workplace. Small things, as you said, basic human hygiene and basic practices that they can take back and start implementing it at their workplace so that it becomes a little bit better than what it was yesterday. And they start benefiting from us, from this discussion. And I'm sure there are so many different things on leadership. As I said, change management in itself is a huge topic. There is delegation, there is negotiation. So we will come back for a round 2 with you. But so far, it has been fun. It has been a lot of education. As I said, 3 pages of notes. So thank you for sharing all this with us. Thank you for being with us. And we'll definitely have you in, let's say, season 2, season 3. I don't know how it's going to shape up. But thank you for being with us today.
Thank you very much, Deepak, for reaching out to me and thinking I'm worthy of sharing some insights. Hopefully, this will help any budding leaders or HR folks or anybody who watches this. So
that's the hope. That's the hope.
Yeah, that's the hope.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello guys and welcome back. I hope you thoroughly enjoyed our discussion with Vachana Jayaram. She has given all that she had. So I believe you can take this episode and start creating item by item checklist to see or evaluate our organization's health in terms of employee engagement, in terms of fun at workplace, and all that stuff. Basically, if you are implementing it, it's all great. If you know someone, a leader or a manager who is in charge of creating the workplaces of tomorrow, creating the culture inside an organization, share this with them, right? This could be gold mine for them, okay? So I have thoroughly enjoyed having this discussion with Vachana, and I do have plans of bringing her back in future episodes or future seasons. But I hope you guys have enjoyed it as much as I have enjoyed working with her and discussing with her. And next episode, okay, we are going to have another very powerful leader who is going to share a lot of leadership wisdom with us. He is going to share with us how do you create leadership development programs, the role of those programs inside organizations, and tons of other wisdom and insight about creating a workplace of the future and about leadership. So stay tuned, and if you have not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe to the channels right now. I'll see you next Sunday at 8 a.m. with our new guest. Till then, take care and be limitless.